Hey everybody, another exciting episode of the Storytellers. Tonight, I have my old pal Andy Smith on, who has just launched another Indiegogo campaign. It's his second First Man. Sounds like a double negative, but it's true. It's his
I know.
First
It's
Man
true.
series, which launched a few days ago. We're gonna talk about that. But we're also going to talk about the usual storyteller things and find
Sure.
out, what motivated Andy and got him into comics in the first place. So, welcome, my friend. It's good to have you.
Thanks, man. I totally appreciate it. I really do look at this as an honor because you've had some great people on this show. So it's very cool. So
Well, I'm glad to count you among them.
thank you. I appreciate it. So there you go. Welcome everybody in the chat as well.
Yeah, let's drop a hello here to let's see who's in here. Dr. Mask is here. JP Roca, Val Schnitzel. That's a fun one to say.
Oh yeah.
Stripling Vaughn. Leg Kick One is here. Hello, hello. Pop Culture Avenger. I love to see the regulars show up on these things. It's so much fun to get into conversations with them.
Oh, totally. I've got my regulars in the morning as well, and a few of them are here right now. So
excellent. There's plenty of crossover, that's for sure. Sheldon Martin's here. Hello there. Cool. All right, so let's get into it, Andy. Let's find out what turned you on to comics, and what was that aha moment, as I like to call it, that where you said, I've been reading comics and now I want to make a living doing it.
Oh, I knew that from the first comic book I bought because, I always say every kid, and maybe you experienced this with your girls. I know I did with mine. Every kid around 2 years old picks up a pencil, crayon, whatever, and just doodles, but some give it up, like a year later, if that, they're like, yeah, I'm moving on to something else because they've grown up and they know how to communicate. But artists like us, we don't give it up. It's just this innate thing that we have to do. Even to this day, if I go, like I used to say I had to draw every day, right? And I don't have to draw every day anymore. But if I go a certain amount of time without drawing, I get like, oh, I got to draw something. And so I started drawing as a kid in elementary school and all that. But it wasn't until I was about 12 or 13 that I discovered comics. And when I did, it was just an immediate switch. I was like, I got to draw comics for a living. That was just it. I started off drawing cars because I was a car guy as a kid.
Okay.
Matchbox cars, die-cast, whatever. And then, in high school, I became a motorhead and, hung out with those guys. But from the moment I discovered comics, I was like, no more cars. Now I need to figure out how to draw people. And I want to draw superheroes. Because it was an issue of Captain America that was just like, whoa, what is this? And it was, Mike Zeck and on the art. And it was just, for a 12-year-old, it was just like mind blowing.
What number was it?
Crap. 275.
275. Okay. Describe the cover. Which one is that?
Oh, it's easy. It's Captain America is coming right at you with his shield up and bullets are coming at him. And I think there's even like fragments, like there was a wall behind him. And I don't think Zeck actually, he might have drawn a little bit of stuff back there, but there was no like wall texture. No.
Yeah. I think it's a yellow background, if I'm not.
Yeah, it's yellow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's yellow. Yeah. And but see, so that's what grabbed me when I saw it. I saw it at a 7-Eleven walking home from school. And that's what grabbed me to pick it up. But the splash page is what really got me, because the splash page was a shot of Cap from about waist up coming through a wall and not bursting through it. It was a holographic wall.
Oh yeah. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. It had that Marvel typical writing. Even obviously it wasn't Stan Lee. I think it was J.M. DeMatteis.
Yeah.
Who wrote it. And it was something like, no, reader, your eyes aren't deceiving you. Cap's not walking through a wall. It's a holographic wall at his SHIELD headquarters, or, something like that. But just the way Zeck twisted the body of him coming through that wall, I was like, holy crap. So,
okay.
Yeah, man, that was the ticket.
So that was the ticket. So that got you going. And you're a Cuban school grad, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So how'd you find out about that, and what was your journey going there?
That was the same, you know, they advertised in comic books.
Right.
And once again, I think I was in middle school. So for me, that was 8th grade because high school was 9 to 12. So, you know, I saw the ad in a comic, and before that, I just assumed, well, I guess I'll go to, you know, the University of Maryland because that's where I grew up, like 10 minutes from it. So I just assumed, I guess I'll just go there and take art classes. But I saw that ad, and I think I called him because obviously there's no internet and stuff. So I'm pretty sure I called him and said, can I get a catalog, you know, a course catalog? And they sent it to me. And I remember looking through it and showing my parents and just saying, this is it. This is where I want to go. And I put the horse blinders on. I never focused on any other type of, you know, there was no, well, maybe you should look at community college or the University of Maryland. There's none of that. I mean, I took the SAT to appease my parents, but dude, I slept through it, man. My SAT scores were a joke because I didn't study. I didn't care. It was just like, fine, I'll take it.
Me too.
Yeah. And you know, my parents, they were really supportive of my drawing and my art. We had a spare room in the house, and it wasn't a guest room. I don't think I even knew what a guest room was in a house until I moved out, because, you know, growing up, it was my parents' bedroom, my brother's bedroom, my bedroom, and then the 4th bedroom was downstairs. And I think my dad might have used it for an office for a period of time. But once I really got into drawing, even as a freshman in high school, they went out and bought me the wooden drawing table and set it up in that room. And that was like my room to draw in. And friends would come over and be like, this isn't your room. This is your dad's. Because I mean, what 9th grader, 10th grader has their own, you know, room in a house that's set with a drawing table, drafting table for, you know, that's theirs.
Yeah.
You know?
That's not their bedroom.
Right. That's not their bedroom.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, my friends would definitely be like, no, that's your dad's. There's no way you have this room to yourself. And I was like, no, it's mine. You know, they want to foster it.
What did your dad do for a living? What was his line of work?
He was trained. He grew up in New York, and he went to nursing school. So he was actually a registered nurse. And he was also a volunteer firefighter. My dad had a bunch of jobs, I remember growing up. So he did the nursing thing for a bit. He was a volunteer firefighter that actually, they were going to a call, and he was on the back of the truck, and the bars broke, and he fell off the back of the truck, and his fingers did this. So he scraped his fingertips off. So I know. So he didn't, I mean, his fingers didn't look that bad, but he really didn't have like fingertips.
Eesh.
You know? But no, so he did that. He sold cars for a period of time.
Oh, okay.
He got his realtor license and worked for Century 21 and sold real estate. I do remember this. He sold pharmaceuticals for a long time.
Oh.
And he had a company car. So we only had to own one car because he had a company car. But I remember telling kids in elementary school when they were like, oh, what's your dad do? I go, oh, he's a drug dealer. Because our basement, and I don't know if this is still how it is for pharmaceutical reps, but our basement would have boxes of medication. And with my dad's nursing background, if we got sick, he'd go down in the basement and be like, well, let's see if I have anything extras.
There you go.
Seriously, he would. Dude, he cauterized my finger one time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if I told you this story because I've told it so many times. I slashed open like the tip of my index finger real bad when I was a teenager. And most people would be like, all right, we're going to take you to the ER and they'll have to pop 1 or 2 stitches. My dad's looking at it and he's like, get me a paper clip. And I'm like, okay. So I got a paper clip and he heated that son of a bitch up with a lighter. And he's like, all right. And he told my brother to hold me. And I'm like, what are we doing? And he's like, just hold your hand still. And
Bite
he's
down
like,
on this, Andy.
dude, he hit it. And I went, whoa. And he goes, you can't. And my dad, I guess I get this from him. He was a yeller. He's like, don't move your hand. And he yelled at me and he's like, keep it still. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you're burning me. And he did, man. He cauterized it.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool. Hey, thanks, Raj, for the $1.99 super sticker. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's cool. So so he did that, but then he worked at a women's prison as a nurse. And he would come home and tell us like stories of having to give some of these inmates shots, and it would take 2 or 3 male guards to hold them down. You know, because this wasn't Orange is the New Black. Let's put it that way. That show on Netflix. Right. This was a women's prison where one of the women in the prison was serving a life sentence. And it's because this was in the 80s. So back in the 60s, and this is horrible what she did, but to get the story across, she basically was at a daycare or something working there and lit the place on fire and took off out of the building as, kids and stuff perished. And that's what she was in for. Wow. And she wanted to be able to put up pictures in her cell of some of the kids and stuff. So it was a hardcore prison that he worked at. Wow. So he just bounced around. He did whatever he had to do to put food on the table and stuff. I mean, my mom worked too. Right. But
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So they were supportive of you and your desire to go into the arts, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And is that where you met Bart? Was he an instructor there at that time when you went to?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happened. So, we did our due diligence, and my parents, it was only 4 hours away. Mm-hmm. So my parents were like, well, you're not doing a phone interview. We want to see this joint. So they took me up there, and, it was great because I sat down with Joe for the interview, all that stuff. My parents felt real comfortable after meeting Joe. But it was my third year. When you went, was it at the high school or was it at the mansion still?
It was at the mansion.
Oh, okay. So, when I went, it was at the Dover High School. Did you ever see the Dover High School? Like, did you ever go back, or have you literally never?
No, I have seen it. They had a reunion there one time, like the year after they opened it. And Julie and I went, and I got to see it.
Okay. So you saw it. So visually, you start your year, you walk up the steps, and they would give you your schedule, because I always told people the Kubert School is like high school. You go from like 8 to 2:30 with a half hour for lunch, 2 classes a day. Mm-hmm. And so I show up for my first day of class in 1990 in the fall, and I get my schedule, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, whatever. And I knew kids in second year because, it's a small school. So, lower classmen, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, what's your schedule? And they're like, oh, no. I got Bart Sears as a teacher. And I remember I was like, what? What is he teaching second year students for? That dude should be teaching third year students. What the hell? Because I was a fan of his work. He was working on Justice League Europe. I bought that book. So I was like, man, I don't care if he's my teacher or not. I'm going to, one day before school, because he only taught 1 day a week. I said, 1 day before school, I'm just going to go and introduce myself to him. So I walked into his class and said, hey, excuse me, Mr. Sears, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a third year student. Would you have time? Could you look at my stuff? And he was like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. So, he looked at my work and I guess took a liking to it. And, he showed me some stuff on tracing paper, and I pretty much was like, well, since you only teach 1 day a week, is it cool if I just keep showing you stuff? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And it basically
had you started to model your style after him prior to that? Like before you went to the school, you said you were reading Justice League Europe and stuff like that. Were you?
Well, it was during school, because Justice League started when I was in school.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
all right. So that's where you actually discovered his work.
Right. Because Justice League Europe came out when I was either in second year or end of first year. But that's when I discovered his work. Yeah. But no, I didn't model my style. I just liked his work. I wasn't really even thinking, I guess, style when I was in the Kubert school in third year. I was just, concerned with doing good storytelling, obviously good drawing, and trying to improve my drawing. And, I was one of the lucky ones that had Joe for second and third year. I don't know if he taught all 3 years when you went, but he only taught second and third when I went.
Yeah, he taught all three.
Okay, so I only had him for 2 years. So I was more concerned with storytelling and drawing, and he would do the tracing paper and just absorb that. But with Bart, it got to a point where he was like, if you want to come out, because he lived in town or maybe half hour away. It wasn't far. And he was like, dude, if you want to just come over to the apartment, after class any day, it doesn't matter, not just the day I taught, feel free to drop by. I'll just be working on Justice League stuff. You can do homework, whatever. And I was like, yeah, dude, that'd be cool. And it was at that point where he was putting tracing paper over my work, and not just like, oh, this arm's too short and stuff like that, but just going, it would look better style wise if you kind of chiseled it more. Because he always had that chiseled look to his work. And he was like, maybe try doing this. So it was a sense of him saying, try it this way. And I was like, okay. And I just tried it that way. And he would also let me draw, and not a ton, but he'd be like, hey, you want to draw some buildings in Justice League Europe? So nothing, not like people or anything, but literally buildings. He's like, I gotta draw some buildings. You want to draw some buildings? I'm like, sure.
Apprenticeship.
Yeah. So I draw some buildings for him. I remember having to draw Piccadilly Circus in London because it was Justice League Europe. And he laid it out, he laid it out with just some, the perspective and stuff. And it was like, here's some reference. And it was still a learning thing because I would draw buildings and I would draw windows and stuff. And then he would take it and be like, all right, let me show you what you can do to these windows to give them just a little more depth, and even architect. And he would say, he'd go, you know what? Nobody really knows the details of these buildings there. They just know the basic shapes and stuff. And once again, there was no internet. So it's not like somebody's looking up Piccadilly Circus, doing a Google image search going, dude, you drew it wrong. So I would do that. He let me draw some control room stuff, and that was all made up, so it didn't matter. And that was another learning thing because I would draw, he would show me what he did previously and I would try and mimic it. But then after I did it, he would still go, so it doesn't look, say, as flat or generic. Let's pull some shapes out this way, push some shapes in, and do different things like that, just to make the computer stuff look more, not futuristic, but obviously not just the keyboard,
right?
So I did that for him, and then it was like, it was the spring of '91, and I had sample pages because at this point I was just really concentrating on working on sample pages and stuff. And the general rule.
This is your third year now, 91.
Yeah, this third year. Yeah.
Okay.
And I basically, this is basically what they told us at the Kubert School. They said for sample pages, if you want to be an inker, do 4 to 5 pages over somebody else's pencils, preferably 5 pages over, probably 5 different artists, because you want to be an inker, you want to show versatility, not just ink one thing. If you want to be a penciler, it was 4 to 5 pages of pencil storytelling, no pinups, none of that stuff. And they even said, because it was harder to get scripts back then as well. They said, take a comic that you like and find a 4 to 5 page sequence in the book. And this was right from Joe. And Joe would say, find a 4 to 5 page sequence in the comic and write out panel descriptions of what's happening in each panel, and then chuck the comic to the side and then there's your script.
Right.
And obviously purposely do it different because,
Right.
you know, you do have the visual. So that's what I would do. And yeah, it was like March, I think, in 91. Bart was like, hey, I got to go drop some pages off at DC. You want to go? And I was like, well, yeah. So we went up, and
Is that your first trip up there?
yeah, it was my first trip up to DC. And, you know, he was working for Andy Helfer at the time.
Okay.
And Kevin Dooley was Andy's assistant. So he introduced me to Andy and showed, you know, and basically he would say, look, this is a student. Take a look at his work. You know, he didn't come right out and say, you know, look, I have no influence. You know, he basically worded it to all the editors, act like I'm not here, or he'd even leave the room because I don't want you to think, hey, Bart brought him in. And they did. You know, Andy would look at the pages and give me some pointers and tips and critiques.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go to a different editor because it was, you know, 91. You could just walk down the hall.
Yeah. Once you were in there, once you were past the gatekeeper, Ruthie, you could.
Yeah.
Ruthie was sweetheart. She was such a great gal.
Great.
Yeah.
She was great. And I mean, he would, and it wasn't me because Bart could walk down the hall. You could walk down the hall, but some new kid couldn't. So Bart would just go to a different editor, knock, knock. Hey, you got a few minutes, and I'd go in. So I think that first trip, it was Helfer. I think it was Brian Augustin. I think Mike Gold was there at the time as well.
Yeah. Mike was a senior editor there.
Yep. And I think on that first trip, it was just those three guys, and they all gave me pointers. But the big thing was they all said, you know, work up some new pages and come back in a couple weeks. So I remember we left and we would go to a bar and have a beer or whatever and just, you know, shoot the shit. And, you know, it was like, okay, they said a couple weeks, and I'm very OCD that way. I'm like that with time too, where it's like, hey, you should be someplace at 7. And my rule of thumb is if it's 7, it means 10 of 7, you know? So I took that couple weeks. I took that couple weeks to heart. Yeah. And I got back
2 weeks later.
I worked up new pages. I was up there again 2 weeks later with Bart, and they, you know, those same guys were like, he's back in 2 weeks, you know? And Helfer pretty much came right out and said, I don't have anything, or I'd give you something. I think I know I met that time with Carlin as well, and he was sharing an office with a guy named Dan Raspler.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Dan, you got to, you know, I don't have anything. Mike said the same thing. He goes, I don't have anything. Or I'd give, you know, your stuff is there. I just don't have anything. So he showed it. He's like, Dan, you want to take a look? And Dan was like, yeah, I'll take a look. So Dan looked at the stuff and was like, yeah, this is some good stuff. You know, I could probably get you not a fill-in, but an inventory. Remember inventory jobs?
Yeah.
He's like, I could get you an inventory job with Suicide Squad. And I was like,
for those of you in the chat that don't know what an inventory job is back then, they would have these jobs in their flat files in case there was a deadline issue or crunch. They needed something to publish. They could pull out this story and be ready to go.
Yep. And he's like, I can do you an inventory job of Suicide Squad. And I said, dude, that'd be great. I said, you know, I've got, you know, whenever you have it, I can start it and I'll just get it done. You know, I've got, school ended in May. So I think I had like a month and a half left of school. Mm-hmm. And then Dan's like, no, that's why I'm doing an inventory job, because I want you to finish school first. He goes, I'm not even going to give you the script until you graduate, but you will get it. And I was like, okay. So, you know, Bart and I left, and I kept in touch with him and stuff, just, you know, to be sure. I'd call maybe every couple weeks or something. And, you know, I graduated. I can remember it was like May 18th. And I remember moving back home, because where else was I going to go? So I moved back to Maryland and with my parents. And I remember, you know, like a week before graduating, contacting Dan going, hey, I graduate in a week. And he's like, okay, I'll get the script to you and stuff. And my dad had a fax machine, so I think I got it faxed. Oh, no, I did get it FedExed because he had to send me paper. So he FedExed me a box of paper, which was great because you know how generous they were at paper back then, right?
Yeah,
They'd be like, oh, here, you want a couple hundred sheets?
Yeah.
So I got like,
and you feel like a
FedEx
real
box.
pro then, because it's got the Blue Line DC logo on it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think he asked smoother vellum, and he just sent me paper, and it was the rough stuff, which I hate.
Oh, the vellum.
But I didn't say a damn thing. I was like, I'm not bitching. This is my first job. I'll draw on it. But dude, I tell you, I remember sitting down. I always joke that my memory is shit, but for certain things, it's vivid. And I can remember sitting down at the desk, opening up the script. I remember taking a piece of DC paper and flipping it sideways and doing just a single figure drawing of each of the characters that was in the Suicide Squad, just so I kind of had a model reference of my drawing of them to have. And man, I was nervous as hell on that first page, dude. I was so freaking nervous.
Who wrote the script?
It was Ostrander.
Ostrander.
Sean Ostrander. Oh yeah, it was Ostrander that wrote it. Splash page was a splash page of Bronze Tiger in a fighting pose from like half thigh up. And then I think there were floating heads of the other Suicide Squad members around him. Is what the script called for. And Dan had I think there was like maybe two things he had me redraw in it. One was, I laugh because I see this crap in comics all the time now. And I'm like, where's the editor telling him to redraw it? There was a scene of a dude aiming a gun in the background at a foreground figure, right? And I guess it wasn't technically pointing at the figure in the foreground accurately enough. So Dan's like, could you erase it and redraw his arms over a little bit more so it's really directionally aimed at him? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say no. But now, it's little things like that I see all the time. And I'm just like, huh. Oh, isn't that interesting? Where's the editor sleeping on the job? Yeah, well. But yeah, so I got it done. And I remember I hand delivered the final pages. Like I'd FedEx everything. I'd go to Kinko's, make my copies for myself, and then I'd FedEx them up. But for the last batch of pages, I drove them up.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk to other editors. Right. I didn't know if Dan was going to give me something else.
Right.
And then the other thing too is with the inventory job, Dan was like, take your time. There's no deadline. Take your time. And I'm like, I don't know if Joe said this or if it was just my instinct, but I'm like, that's a trap. I can't take 3 months on a 22-page book.
That's right.
So I did it
in the inventory hell.
Right. And Joe, at least when I was there, was basically like, you should do a page a day of pencils. You should do a page a day. An inker should do a page and a half a day. A letterer should basically do 10 pages a day. And a colorist should do, because this was still flat color with color guides. Mm-hmm. I think he said a colorist should do probably 4 to 5 pages a day. And the whole reasoning behind it was because of how the pay worked out. If a penciler makes X amount and does a page a day, he can make a pretty good living doing a page a day. Yeah. When inker gets paid less, say you do a page and a half a day. Mm-hmm. And then it just so on and so forth with the rest of the food chain.
Right.
So the other thing I made sure to do too was I made sure when I did my sample pages to get a job that I did them in a day. Because Joe was like, if an editor asks you how long it took you to do a page, don't you lie. Because if you say it took you a day and it took you 3, and then he gives you a deadline for 5 pages in 5 days and you can't do it, you're screwed.
Right.
But I made sure all my sample pages took me a day. Now it might have been a long day, but they took me a day.
Well, so yeah, I mean, there was Monday, there was Tuesday, and there was Wednesday. So that's a day.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But no, I think I did the job in like 4.5 weeks, and I drove it up there, handed them off. And then, like you said, once you're back there as a pro, you can just walk around. So I did. And I got another job from Kevin Dooley. So
That's excellent. That's excellent. I miss those
yeah.
days where the pre 9/11 days when you could just, make a phone call, get up into the offices, and then be brought back. Now,
Dude.
well, I mean, before DC moved a few years back, 5 years ago, whatever it was, um, you couldn't get past the security guard in the lobby.
No.
Somebody had to come
Yeah.
down from DC and pick you up and take you up the elevator. So if you didn't
You
have
had to show ID. Yeah, you had to show ID. Like you said, in the 90s, you just walked right in the lobby. And I'll be honest, I honestly don't remember if there was even a security base in the lobby or not.
there
I
wasn't.
don't recall. Yeah, I didn't think so. So you would just walk in, hit the elevator, go up to, I can't remember the floor number anymore. But because back then in New York, they had MAD, DC, and then I think the floor above DC was something else. I can't remember.
There was editorial, I think, was on 6 or 7.
Yeah, it was something like that, and MAD was below
26 or 27. I can't remember now.
it. It was higher. No, it was higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just walk. And same with Marvel. You just went to Marvel, got on an elevator, went up. I remember the little lobby area where they had the comics on the wall. I mean, the lobby area of Marvel was tiny compared to DC.
Yeah. There was those glass doors too when you got off the elevator.
Yeah, it had the glass doors and it had the window where I can't remember her name at Marvel now, but she was sitting there to greet you, and you'd just be like, "Yeah, I'm a freelancer," and she'd be like, oh, "Okay." Let you right in.
Yeah.
And you just walk up and down.
Yeah. Those were good days. It's a shame they don't exist anymore.
Oh no! And have you ever been to the Burbank offices?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's obviously not a skyscraper, but it's you got to check in at the front. They let you go up, and then somebody has to come in and get you, and they're very not. You can't walk around. It's like, who do you want to see? So.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah. And then I worked for DC for. Well, the gig Kevin Dooley gave me was Justice League Quarterly, and it was only 7 pages every quarter.
Nice.
So he gave me that, and he wrote it as well. The story I was doing, he happened to be the writer on it as well. And man, he would write like 7-panel pages, and lots of dialogue. And and it was a team story. It was the Global Guardians.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, dude. There's no room for like anything on these pages.
Yeah. Somebody not quite understanding the medium there.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin and I are, we're friends now. I mean, we were always friends, but we definitely had our kind of ups and downs a little bit once he became a full editor and stuff. I would push back against stuff when he requested certain things. I was just like, no, man. No.
So what's your favorite part of the process?
Oh man, layouts and breakdowns. If I know from talking to you and even myself now, we do it all. We pencil, ink, and write, but from the art side, pencil, ink, and then we do have somebody else color and letter the stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'll be honest, if I could just do breakdowns and be done with it, I would, because it becomes work when it comes to doing pencils. Mm-hmm. It becomes work. Inking's not so much. I mean, I can talk on the phone, I can watch TV, but penciling, even to this day, because I still pencil my stuff relatively tight for myself to ink it, it's just work. It's like Ethan said. I think Ethan said one time, it's like giving birth. It is really, for me, it is really work. And if you would have asked me back in 91, what do you think it'll be like 10, 15, 20 years from now? I would have been like, oh, I'll be ripping. I literally thought this. I thought, oh man, I would expect in 10, 15 years, I'll be like Byrne whipping out 2-3 pages a day. No. It's the rendering in the finished style for me is just so.
So is that
So,
your least favorite part of the process?
oh yeah.
Is
Oh yeah.
penciling?
Yeah. Finish penciling. Like I said, I love doing breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done a few jobs where I was just hired to do breakdowns for a finisher, and I can do 2 pages a day of breakdowns because I don't have to worry about lighting
Mm-hmm.
or any of that stuff. You know, my breakdowns look like look base. Well, the funny thing is, my breakdowns now people would think are full of pencils because I was going to say my breakdowns are total clean outlines. It looks like a coloring book.
Mm-hmm.
Is what breakdowns look like. They're not sketchy. They literally look like a coloring book.
Mm-hmm.
And all the inker has to do is figure out the lighting and the textures. I
Okay.
do everything.
So let's talk about it from the point of view that you're doing it all. What's your, when you're doing your breakdowns, you said you didn't have to be concerned about lights and shadow. Well, you do if you're doing it all.
Oh, I
So,
know.
so does that change it? Does that change the process that you like and the process you don't like?
No, because I still do. So I don't do the super clean breakdowns when I'm penciling for myself. They're still a little rougher because I know that I'm going to tighten them up some before I ink it.
Mm-hmm.
But once I get to that stage of having to tighten the stuff up, I still just, I don't know what it is. I still just really will sometimes overthink stuff. And just have like this insecurity of how do I want to finish this look wise,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's really weird because I was telling somebody this yesterday on a stream about the process. Once it's inked and I look at it, I just step back and I go, why was this so hard? Because this is literally the style that I've been doing for years now.
Right.
And I'm just like, why the hell was this so hard to get to this stage? But once it's done and I detach from it even a day, you know, looking at it with fresh eyes, I'm like, oh, okay. So like when I am getting to that stage of penciling, I'll have the previous pages up on my desk, not for reference, like, oh, I got to make sure I draw this consistent from the other page. I can do that, no problem. It's just to go, okay, let me keep in mind how I'm doing my rendering here. Because I think one of the things that screwed me up from kind of a mental standpoint in the business was in the 90s to get work at Marvel at this one point, they were going through this phase in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, where they really wanted cartoony stuff. You know, they were really high on Humberto Ramos and Mike Rowingo and Joe Madureira and so on and so forth. So I wasn't drawing that way. That wasn't natural for me. And they said, you know, one of the editors was like, well, I got this job, but we really want that cartoony look like a Rowingo, Madureira. You know, can you do that? And of course, I got to pay bills. I want to work. I said, yeah, of course I can do that. And they're like, well, would you mind doing a paid sample? And I said, yeah, I mean, you're paying. I don't care. Sure. So they had me do this strong guy because it was for a book called Strong Guy, and Strong Guy's from X Factor.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Well, he's the bald guy that, you know, he is kind of out of proportion. His upper body's bigger. He has smaller legs. But when he was first introduced, you could still draw him in a realistic style and make it work alongside the other characters that were drawn in, you know, a realistic style. But for this, they really wanted to push it cartoony. So I gave him like this really tiny waist, really blown out upper body. I've always been a fan of Michael Golden. So I thought, well, for me to do cartoony, I'm going to try and do Michael Golden-esque type rendering and lighting. So I pulled out some of the Michael Golden stuff I had that I really enjoyed, his G.I. Joe yearbook, his Avengers annual and stuff, to really look at how he was doing his rendering with his reflected light and his feathering and stuff. And then when it came to proportion of the figures, I was like, okay, I really like the way Joe Mad does the proportion of his heroic figures with the really wide shoulders and tiny waists and so on and so forth. So I did that. So I did this sample for Strong Guy, and they liked it. So they gave me the Strong Guy one shot that Todd DeZago wrote. And I knew Todd before this, so that was good. And Art actually inked it. Art Taber inked the book. So that was my first time working with Art. So I did that, and they liked it. And then they're like, hey, we're doing you want to do a fill-in issue of X Factor? And I was like, of course. And I even remember Mark Powers telling me at the time, you know, we kind of want to slot you in to being kind of like a fill-in guy on the X books. And now, you know, being a fill-in guy is not great, but if it's a fill-in guy on the X books, well, you know, they sell well, so why not? Mm-hmm. So did an issue of X-Force. I worked on issue 350 of X-Men, which was a big, 350th issue. I did a second Strong Guy book, except instead of it being a standalone Strong Guy, they just slotted it in as an issue of X-Men Unlimited. So I did a few things in that. From a mental standpoint, is once Marvel was basically, you know, I did a couple issues of Spider-Man that way. I did a bunch of stuff in that style. And then it was like CrossGen came along. And, you know, Ron got the gig first at CrossGen. And then he suggested Bart for a penciling job there. And then we all talked kind of behind the scenes. And because I did try out to get a penciling job at CrossGen when they first started. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting a letter back from Brandon Peterson, who was the art director when they were first starting, saying, hey man, we're good because we're only doing a few books and we already, you know, hired the 4 artists. So, mm-hmm. you know, but keep in touch, blah, blah, blah. So then they hired Bart, which means they were doing a 5th book. So they were, you know, Ron and Bart were like, hey, why don't we pitch you to ink Bart? We know you don't want to ink. We know you want a pencil, but, you know, this would get you in the door, and then we'll do it for like a few months, and then we'll just start pushing, going, you know, he should really be penciling. You're really wasting him as an inker. And I was like, all right, I guess, you know, that's cool. Because up until that point, the only stuff I inked was Bart when we did Ominous Press for the first time in 1993. And it was just a few issues. What's up, Art?
The devil. What's up, Art?
He heard his name. So I wasn't like, you know, an inker at that. Well, I take it back. Up until CrossGen, I inked a few issues of Bart. I inked somehow I got a job to ink Keith Giffen at Marvel on 3 issues of Web of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, inking Keith Giffen was the easiest thing I ever did. His pages averaged me about 2 hours a page to ink.
It's all black and white. There's no gray tones. There's no cross hatching. It's all solid.
Right.
Black.
And it's the side of the brush because he was doing the Kirby S type stuff.
Right.
So dude, I blew through 2 pages, 3 pages a day of his stuff. And then right before, like 6 months before CrossGen, Bob Schreck called me up from DC and asked me if I wanted to ink Green Lantern over Darryl Banks. And I was like, okay. I mean, it was just weird to me because I only inked Keith Giffen and Bart. And I'm like, where am I getting this rap as being an inker from? But I'm like, all right, whatever.
Right.
So I think I inked like 6 issues of Daryl. And then the CrossGen scheme, as I'll call it, came about where it's like, hey, let's get you into ink Bart. And then we'll push for the penciling because your talents are wasted as an inker. So I you know, after 6 months, I called up Bob and said, sorry, I had to quit. I'm getting this full-time gig at CrossGen. It's a salary, you know. So that's what happened. I went there. And then when they were trying to push the penciling aspect for me, I was really, it was like 3 or 4 years of penciling in this more cartoony style. So now I'm just used to it. It's like second nature to me, right? Mm-hmm. And Mark Alessi's like, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that look. He was like, he goes, I don't mind you penciling, and I've seen other stuff, but you got to change this up. So I was like, oh. So I had to make this mental shift to kind of go back to not what I was doing before, because what I was doing before was basically really the Bart style is what I was doing before the cartoony stuff. Because we were working for Valiant and they said, oh my God, you guys doing EXO twice a month will be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we had people come up to us at conventions giving us different, they'd give me a book Bart drew, Bart a book I drew. And we're like, nope, read the credits because the styles, and I didn't see it. I'll be the first to admit, I thought I did a pretty good job at that style that Bart was doing, but I didn't think I did a good enough job where people would get it confused because I didn't think I drew nearly as well as Bart did. But people did. And I didn't want to go back to that. So I'm in this weird thing of, well, if I want to pencil a cross-gen, he hates the cartoony stuff. So I got to do something. So I don't know. I just figured something out. But it was tough. It was really tough making that mental shift to something else. And that something else is basically what I've been doing since then and what my stuff looks like now.
Right.
So I did that and yeah.
That brings us up to today, to a certain degree.
Pretty much.
And you are now doing your own stuff, crowdfunding. Creating your own IP, and you've done one already with First Man, and now you're doing a sequel to that one. So how did you come up with the idea for First Man? Where did that come from?
Well, the visual was from my 13-year-old head when I was trying to come up with a character for the Marvel box. And it was kind of like their version of D&D, and you can make up your own heroes.
Okay.
So that's where the costume for him, that's where the costume design for him and Penumbra came from. Was back when I was like 14 or 15, I think.
Okay.
The idea was, it was 1997. I was talking to Eric Larson, and he was like, because he gave me my start at Image for the few things I did at Image. And he was like, why don't you just do something for us? Your own thing. And I was like, oh, so I got to submit like a proposal and stuff. And I just can still remember Eric going, no, I just said you can do something for us. And I was like, oh, sweet. So I never wrote anything at the time. So I created the villain Monarch because I just wanted to create some really big, huge guy to offset the look of First Man, being the more typical Superman-esque physique. Mm-hmm. And just kind of thought about things I liked in comics, which was I always liked the humor from Spider-Man, Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. I always liked Shazam and with the Billy Batson changing.
Who?
Who?
Shazam. Who's?
I said Billy.
I don't know that character.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you do. He's
the old man who lives on a rock. You're talking about Captain Marvel, the real Captain Marvel.
Oh, sorry, Captain Marvel. Well, the reason I don't say that is because then the other love is Marvel's Captain Marvel with the cosmic stuff.
Right.
That's why I always because I know exactly what you're saying, but the reason I always distinguish it is so I don't go Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel. So I always say Shazam, but I totally get you. Dude, I'm right there with you. I love that stuff. Love CC Beck. God, I love that guy's stuff. So that's where the idea came from. I know. Dude, there are so many guys that I wish I could have met, and I probably could have if I just would have thought about it at the time. Like when I was at San Diego in '94, and I know there were guys there that I would love to have met that I just didn't. So
yeah.
But that's basically where it came from. And I did that one issue for Image, and I got the sales figures, and I was like, well, I can't afford to do this. Mm-hmm. So even though the book said to be continued, I just dumped it and, went. And Eric didn't care. He was like, dude, I get it. But the funny thing is, if I had those sales figures now, I'd be happy. So I just dumped it. And, when I got to the position of being able to do crowdfunding with it a year and change ago, I was like, I want to do First Man and I want to finish what I started, and hopefully do a second one. And then there's basically a third one in mind to make it a trilogy. So that's, that's where it came about.
Now, who wrote the first ones? Did you write those?
I kind of plotted it, and then my buddy Rob Snyder, who is with me on this one now, did the dialogue for it back then as well.
Oh, okay.
And it was basically, when I say the dialogue, he definitely does, I'd say 90% of the dialogue, but every now and then, you know how it is. And I know you write all your stuff, but for me, I'll draw a panel and I'll just get an idea of what he's saying. And it's usually, and that's why I don't want to take much credit for it, because usually the only dialogue I do or get ideas for is stuff either Luke Henry, First Man's alter ego, is saying, or First Man himself, or maybe his parents. Other than that, the other characters and stuff, I leave it to him. So, but it's a fun way to work, because when it comes to plotting the book, we get on the phone and I have bullet points of like, I want this to happen. I want this to happen. I think it should end like this.
Right.
Your thoughts.
Cool.
And then he'll usually get back to me in a few days with some longer written out stuff. And I'm like, dude, it's like we're in the same head. So
well, here's the campaign up on Indiegogo. If you already got 204 backers, $12,476 in 4 days.
Yep.
That's a really solid, strong start there, bud.
Yeah, it's moving. I'm very, very happy with it.
Did you compare those numbers to where you were when on your first campaign? Have you seen
the first
incline?
Oh yeah, dude. The first campaign, when it ended and went in demand, it was at 14 and change.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So perfect. And when I closed it, because I just closed the campaign on Monday, so there was a little overlap of the two, but I closed it because you can get the first one here. It closed like right a little shy of 24,000. So,
the first
I'm
campaign
good with that. Yeah. So I'm good with that. So
you're going to beat that this time. That's for sure.
I hope so.
Yeah. You're halfway there and you're 4 days in.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's always a slow period, but you keep just chipping away at it, So it'll get there. It'll get there. Let's play the video.
Sure. Boom.
Nice. Is that
your boy right there?
Trailer?
That sure is. And I don't know. I haven't followed up with other people, but I've given his name to I think 2 other people. So
good. Nick does great work.
Dude, I don't know how the process was with you, but like how many back and forths you had. I think we only had like 3, and one was a spelling error. So it wasn't like, none of it was major stuff,
I think I went back once on Alien Alamo.
Yeah. I was like, because I've never, just like I assume you, I've never had somebody do a video for me before for a campaign. So I didn't know what I had to give him. So I'm like, do I need to give you like a written outline? What do I do? And he's like, no, just tell me what the story is about in a paragraph and shoot me some artwork. And I was
Right.
like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous. Like, I'm like, wow, that's all he needs. What? And then I saw it. I'm like, holy crap.
Well, my first campaign, the Canoe, I did my own video where I got up and I talked, and I was blah, 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 blah. And then I get this email from this guy. He said, hey, big fan. And I made this fan version. I thought I'd show you. And so he did this trailer for the Canoe. I'm like, holy shit, this thing is freaking great. I want this as a movie. I said, can I use this? He said, absolutely. I said, well, okay, if I can use this, I'm hiring you for my next campaign. And that's what I did. I hired him for the second one because he let me use the first one for free. And now I've told other people, so it's paying off.
Yeah. Well, one of them, you can probably guess who it is. It's a mutual friend. So, whose campaign is on sign up stage now. How's that?
Oh,
you can probably fill in the blank. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to throw it out there in case for some reason something happens and it doesn't work out, but I'm hoping that it works out for him. So. Yeah, so there it is. I actually did get another backer as we were talking. So
awesome. Beautiful. Oh, let me refresh. So
2 backers actually.
206.
Yeah, I got 2. So nice. There you go.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, let's check out the campaign here.
Yeah, so basically First Man is about, I called it Learning Curve. And it's funny because when I first thought of, for the second campaign, I didn't even think of doing First Man Volume 2 title. But then as I was figuring out the story, Learning Curve just came to me because he's coming back to Earth after the first one, after what happened at the end of the first one, he comes back to Earth. And at this point, Luke Henry's only been the hero First Man for probably not even a month, So he's got to learn, now that he's back on Earth, how to be a hero and how to be a freshman in college. And he lives with his mom and dad, who are the only 2 people that knows he's First Man. So, he goes out of his way to try to help people out, and makes mistakes doing it. He tries to help his dad out. And this is all stuff that I show on the campaign. Makes a mistake helping his dad out. And as I love to say, it don't matter if you're 7 feet tall and build a muscle, your dad's still going to smack you around. And his dad doesn't smack him physically, but he gives him a tongue lashing for something he did.
Right.
So, 7 feet full of muscle, it don't matter. It don't matter. And then this place called the Fourth World Foundation creates this being of enormous power called Adonis. And they want to recruit First Man for some help. But is that really their motive? Is the best way to describe it. So they might have a different motive.
Okay. Cool. That's a great cover.
Thank you.
Who did your logo? I really I like the simplicity of that logo.
My buddy Steve Dutro. I went to the Hubert School with him all 3 years, and he was a great cartoonist. But I'm sure this happened with some of the people you went with.
Yeah.
He was a great artist, but he came out of the school, got a gig as a letterer, and he's been doing it ever since. So he's my go-to.
Yeah, that's a nice logo.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll tell him. He also did the Penumbra logo that's on the trading card and stuff.
Okay, so, did he do your Astonishing Comics logo too?
He did.
Nice.
He did. He shot me over like 5 different versions of it. And I was like, all right, let's play Frankenstein. Move this here, do this, do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he did.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So
good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, we went over the story. You want to talk about the tiers at all?
Yeah. So, obviously if you just want the book, it's $25. You're right at the next one, which is basically if you missed out on the first one, you can get them both 50, of course. Mm-hmm. Both books are 64 pages, square bound, heavy stock, nice weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is my cover and Bart's cover, so that's 60. Bart's cover alone is 35, so it is a little bit more for the variant. The tier below that is basically the set of the first book, the second book, and the program book, which is the supplemental book that features drawings of First Man by guys like Adam Hughes, Brian Hitch, Kevin Nolan,
Cool.
Mike Zeck, Bart, of course, and there's about 15 total guest artists. But then the rest of the book is behind the scenes stuff of character sketches. I even created Monarch's spaceship in a 3D program called SketchUp, and I have that in there with a little size comparison of how big Monarch would be compared to the ship. So it has a bunch of unique behind the scenes stuff for people that like to see what goes into the production of a book.
What's the thought process behind having a variant cover at a higher price?
I just, I guess that's really a holdover from the years of going to a comic shop and seeing variant covers at a higher price.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, that's what it is. It's. I mean,
so you'll print less, honestly, it'll be more collectible.
Yeah, I mean, I will print less, and even on the first campaign, it wasn't an equal amount. Mm-hmm. When it came to the amount I sold more of mine than Bart's. Mm-hmm. So, and then it's funny, I get the people that are like, well, I'm getting Bart's. I'm like, hey man, go ahead. I like to say I do the storytelling cover because that's what I like in comics is a storytelling cover. Mm-hmm. And then with Bart, I'm like, dude, just rip me a cool pinup. I don't care. Whatever you want.
Cool. Oh, so you got a head sketch commission here. That's cool.
Yep. It's the same. The head sketch is the same size of the book. So 7x10, and you pick the character. Same with the figure sketch, same size as the book. And you pick the character as well.
Nice.
So, yep.
Nice. Single figure commission. Okay, so you get the book and a single figure.
Yep, 7x10. You pick it.
Okay.
Customer chooses.
Become a character. Okay.
Snapped up already. So
you had the one slot. Okay.
Yeah, because when it came to doing that, I actually talked to my buddy Rob that's, co-writing it. And I said, I want to do this, but you need to realize we need to specifically craft a scene because I want the person pretty, a big panel in the foreground reacting to something,
right.
Or, because it's not like a main character. It is, a throwaway character, but I want them big so you can see their face and know who it's them and reacting. And obviously there's going to be a fight in this book. So I assume it's going to be somewhere where somebody's in the foreground like, oh my God, or, whatever. And then they also get, I'm pitching it even though it's taken, but they also get, I think I did 4 copies of the book so they can share it among friends and family.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So.
Oh, here we got some interior pages. Is this a double page splash here?
Yeah, that's a double page spread. Unfortunately, that's just the Indiegogo format.
Yeah, I know.
That's one of the learning
layout
curves.
Here. It's nice.
It's one of the learning curve pages because if you look at it, even without the balloons, you can get the gag. I know it's small, but if you go panel to panel, you should be able to get the gag of it. And then the next page is where his dad smacks him down because he just wanted to be a good son and help his dad trim the bushes by using his power, but instead he lit him on fire. So Dad's like, son, I got this. Actually, on that page, his dad is giving him shit for 2 things. Why in the hell are you flying down in my front yard where you live in costume? You're damn lucky it's the middle of the day and most people are at work. And 2, do not light my bushes on fire. Get inside the house. So. And
is this the ship that you said you did in?
No, that's just the fourth. That's the Fourth World ship.
Oh,
that's their ship. This is basically the page where his dad wakes him up and he's like, "You're on the news. You're on the news. The Fourth World Foundation wants to meet with First Man for some reason. You should get over there. This is big." So then scene change. He flies over and. That's the Fourth World Foundation Tower, and that's just their craft. But that's also See, the thing I like about SketchUp is, do you use SketchUp at all?
I use it. I use their 3D like library. I don't create stuff in it.
So I created Monarch Ship, but that was basically looking at YouTube videos on how to create stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I created that building, the first world building. So I have that from all angles. I created the easiest thing. I tell you, Graham, one of the easiest things to create are rooms. So like I have Luke Henry's bedroom in SketchUp, so I can do it from every angle with all the furniture and stuff. But I pulled that ship from a generic, I just typed into their search engine something like Quinjet, and different versions came up, and I was like, oh, I'll just modify it. So I just modify it.
Oh, cool. That's smart.
Yeah. So.
Okay,
then,
here's all like
characters, of course. Looks
like you're having a lot of fun with this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love doing superhero stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Funny, I was talking to somebody yesterday, another artist, and it's totally backwards. They're like, "Oh my God," he was just talking how hard it is to draw regular people in clothes because wrinkles are tough. And he hasn't been doing it nearly as long as we have. And I said, well, my best advice for wrinkles is twofold. Look at real ones, look at actual clothing. But if you have an artist that you like that does wrinkles in a style you like, look at that too. And eventually you'll incorporate real with that style and make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, it's just so tough. And I said, I'll be honest with you, man. I can draw people in clothes a lot faster than I can draw superheroes. So
tell folks about this. This is interesting.
This is the parody ad. I started it actually in the first book I ever did for myself was called Jungle Lords Ultra, which was a flip book. And I did a parody ad because I love those Hostess ads from, Spider-Man basically saying, Doc Ock, have a Twinkie and calm down, and throwing a Twinkie at him. So I always wanted to do one, but I got into business when they weren't being done anymore. So I thought, well, I'll just do my own parody ad with hosted fruit pies, not hostess, hosted. And my buddy Rob writes them, and the only decree that I give him is make them funny. So he writes these parody ads for me. He's written every one. I mean, there's only 2 with First Man, so he's written both of them. And I do them. I get out my John Buscema because he's just one of my heroes.
Oh yeah.
And I look at his stuff for rendering and facial expressions when I draw it. And then I've always had, when I ink with a brush, I tend towards Joe Sinnott type inking style anyhow. So the inking's easy for me for this style. And then I have a newsprint filter, and I just color the stuff myself because it's flat color, and I can even do that. So I do that, and I ship it off to my letterer and have him go to town, and that's it. But I just think it's.
What is that?
I can send it to you. It's just a Photoshop. So basically, and I can send it to you so you don't have to go through the trouble. But basically, I Googled newsprint, and I found an image of newsprint, and I pop it on the very top layer over the whole image. It goes on the top layer, on multiply, and then I adjust the lightness and opacity to where it doesn't knock it out too much. You know what I mean?
So are the dot patterns on there?
No, I don't go all the way dot pattern.
Oh, okay.
I tried it because there's a filter in Photoshop you can do to get a dot pattern, but it works just like old school comics. Because if you remember old school comics, not every color had a dot pattern. Some were just laid down flat, but then for some reason, like reds would have a dot pattern, And I tried it. I just didn't like the way it looked.
Yeah, because reds were cyan and yellow.
Yeah. So I think that might have been it. But and I think the natural colors like Y100, yellow 100, I think they didn't because it was just literally 100% yellow.
But not cyan, magenta and yellow.
Magenta.
Yeah.
So I skipped the whole dot. I tried it, didn't like the way it looked. Newsprint's good enough for it. And I did a cover once years ago. And since I only did it once, I don't remember how I did it.
Yeah.
I don't have the layered file anymore, but I actually did a cover once, and I want to make it look like it was a comic that was ripped and
Yeah.
torn. I put a coffee stain on it, like somebody set a coffee cup down.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea where the layered file is.
Yeah, I did the same thing with a cover for Joe Frankenstein. I aged it, and I remember taking like an old Batman comic that was just beat to shit and had all wrinkles and tears on it, and then you scan it in, and then you select the wrinkles and tears, and you separate that, and it was the whole process. I'd have to look it up to figure out how to do it again, but it came out perfect. It came out great.
Oh yeah.
I put a noise pattern over it so that it aged the paper and everything. It was
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
a lot you can do.
So that's the parody ad that goes in every book. The other thing that will be in the book that isn't shown because I don't have them drawn yet, but they were shown on the previous campaign is the previous campaign had a bio page for the 5 main characters, kind of set up just like the official handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And this one's going to as well, because I've got the 4 new characters of the Fourth World Foundation. So they're each going to have a bio page. And then Adonis is going to have a bio page as well. So I'm going to carry that through into this book as well. So
very nice.
Yeah. I love all that.
The team.
Yep.
So your colorist is in Italy, huh? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Bart actually, got me in touch with her. She colors his stuff for heavy metal. So
did she color your first book? Your first metal?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
That was someone else, and I had to move on.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it and all, but there was just a couple problems. So
okay.
I think schedule wise as well from their end. So
okay.
So
I think it looks great. It's doing well. Let's refresh it again and see if we picked up any more backers here. All right, so we're at 206.
Nice.
207. Got another one.
Oh, sweet! That's awesome.
One
of the stretch goals is, and I haven't listed it yet because it's definitely one of the loftier ones, but it's going to be, if it gets there, and I'm thinking it would need to be around 40,000. I think the last stretch goal I have now is 30.
Okay.
So if it gets to 40, I want to do a 8-page mini comic that is all flat color, like the parody ad, and drawn in that style, but it's a solo Penumbra story. So it's just a standalone story about her, but drawn in that retro type style, and then it'd be a little mini comic that, it's like the size of the He-Man comic that comes with the toy. So, yeah, whatever size that is. And that would be a little, it'd be 8 pages total. So
somebody like the parody ad?
Yeah. The funny thing is, to go back to your question about process stuff and what's hard and whatnot, drawing in that style with that type of rendering, not trying to ape Buscema, because when I do those ads, I definitely look at the way he draws faces to ape his faces, but just drawing in that style myself with the way I draw faces and stuff, but doing the rendering that way with the feathering and stuff, that's actually very easy for me.
Okay.
Very easy. I just don't do it because I think it does look kind of dated compared to what I do, you know? And I don't know if it would actually sell or not. So I'm like, I'll just stick with, the stuff I'm doing now.
How much of the book have you already completed, Andy?
I will be honest. I have one more page on the table and what you see in this campaign. That's why the completion or the delivery date isn't until May of 2022, because once the campaign's over, that's when I'll get to work and start drawing it, and I'll leave the campaign, obviously in demand and all that stuff.
So, you're in promotion mode now, and that's important.
Right. This whole month, I think anybody that does this Billy knows it. Ethan knows, everybody that does this. Aaron is learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Is once you launch the campaign, dude, those 30 days, you're just streaming and promoting and talking to people and getting the word out. You don't have time to draw. So, I mean,
That's right.
I'm trying to do little things,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, it's just promotion.
Yeah, yeah, and creating assets for the campaign. Like if you got
Right,
a
that's the other
bookmark
thing.
or a trading card or something like that, getting that imagery together so that you have stuff to build the assets on the campaign.
And that's a great point. Like the one stretch goal that was reached already is the trading card. I had to put that together as soon as it reached because I wanted to show it.
Excellent.
The next stretch goal is the 6x9 mini print, and I've got it, and that is going to be an original piece. So that's actually something I'm going to start working on probably tomorrow. So
that's one of the
yeah.
first things I did for the campaign was the print.
Yeah, I mean, you got to show that stuff. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good enough just to go, great, it's unlocked, guys. Trust me, you'll see it.
Sheldon says that retro style is great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Graham, if you did a sketch, would you trust Andy to ink it and vice versa? Hell no.
Oh, see, I was going to say in a heartbeat. You laugh. I did a drawing of First Man. It was breakdowns. So it was my breakdowns, just a figure shot of First Man standing and looking cool. And I haven't sent it out as much, but I had Jerry Ordway do finishes over it. So now I know what my stuff looks like with Jerry doing finishes.
Oh,
I had Sergio Cariello do finishes over it.
He's great.
And yep, he did a great job. I'm trying to think. I think I only had 3 people, but for a while there, I was like, I want to get different people. And basically, here's a blue line of it, and then finish it.
No, send it to me. I'll link it.
Yeah, I'll shoot it over to you.
Have you got a blue line?
I'd love it. And yeah, definitely. If you ever want, if you got something you want me to, you want a blue line, I'd love to slap ink on it. Dude, I finished that Captain America that I showed you that I want to do for the bros.
Yeah. Did you?
I finished it. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
I have it in my in Procreate, and I've tweaked it and added some shading and stuff to it, but I haven't started inking it yet.
Dude, I'm just so glad to hear that you did that to it, because like I did it on one of my streams in the morning, and I had to explain that these are John's. Well, I mean, honestly, it's just a sketch. It's a con sketch. It's his breakdowns. Yeah. I said, I went in with a pencil on top of it, and I kept his outline. Mm-hmm. But everything inside that outline is me, because it's breakdowns.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's the fun part is actually kind of, I mean, everything is solid. Everything is there, the proportions and all that stuff, but there's no light source. There's no, actually Cap's face is a little wonky. He's got one eye higher than the other too.
Yeah, I think I went in and adjusted that as well.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tweak that kind of stuff and play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, try and
cool,
give it a Nolan look,
Yeah. No, dude, I'm telling you, man, we've got a few weeks before it rolls back around to me, so I got to remind the rest of the guys, do your homework.
Right. I did somebody had posted a Kurt Swan pencil of Superman one time, and I blue lined it and inked it and colored it. And I had so much fun working on that. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, I did. I know the pose you're talking about. I did a Kurt Swan as well over a different one. It was so fun. Oh, and that book I was telling you about, tips from the top cartoonist, your man Bob Oskiner's in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His two-page section is about pretty girls.
Oh, he did the best.
I know. Yeah. Dude, that came out awesome.
Yeah.
But you ate this traditionally, right? Or no? Is that traditional or
that is traditional, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
sweet.
That was it was blue lined and I printed it out. And then I gotta find the pencil so you can see what I had to work with there.
Dude, look at the mask that he gave Superman in that chest.
Oh yeah.
That rib cage. I mean, he's just like, he literally is like You remember Gordon Scott, who played
Yeah.
Tarzan?
Yeah.
Big barrel chest of a dude.
Mhm.
Steve Reeves, the natural guys before all the roids came into it and stuff.
Right.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. Here we go. Oh, where'd you go? There it is. Okay, here's the blue line. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I had to work with.
Yeah, that's fun. That's perfect. That is perfect for pencils. Everything's there.
Yeah, everything's there. There's a few issues. The hands.
Yeah.
Sure. The hands were a little rubbery.
Yeah.
So you can see what I did here.
Yeah.
Solidified them. But that face, that's that gorgeous Kurt Swan face.
Yep.
I changed the cape a little bit here to give it more power, and that's it. I mean, but everything else was there, I just love the musculature on the legs too.
Did you ever see, it's a drawing book that came out, I don't know if DC published it or they licensed it to a publisher. It's really thin. And it's how to draw the DC heroes, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Robin, and a few others. And it's all Kurt Swan.
No, I haven't seen that.
So cool. I'll show it to you next time because it's on my bookshelf back there somewhere.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It's the step-by-step process. It's so cool.
Yeah. Cool. So, all right, brother. Been on about an hour and a half now.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to leave the folks in the chat with and the people that are going to rewatch this later? Other than
just
Back First Man.
That's right. Back First Man. Go to YouTube, search Andy Smith. You'll find my YouTube channel. Like it, subscribe to it. More importantly, I do a morning show every morning around 8:30 for an hour. And then with this campaign, I try to bump in on the afternoons as well. I do everything from going through art books, going through old art of mine that's scanned and doing live drawing. And then, of course, First Man, it's because of guys like you that allow myself, Graham, all of us that are doing crowdfunding to do these books and get them in your hands. So you are the ones that make this happen. Sergio's in the chat. What's up, Sergio?
Hey there, amigo. We were just giving
he's going to be
your inking style.
Yeah, he's going to be on my show Monday night, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So just please back the campaign. I want to try and get it as high as I can go because now we're at the point where once it's funded, it's all just stretch goals, which is free stuff for you guys. So you get more stuff the higher this goes. So even if you've backed it, share it. Sharing is caring.
Yeah, that's right. Caring. Because your first initial investment maybe got you the book, but now you're getting the book and the trading card, and now you're going to get the book and the trading card and the sticker and the book and the trading card and the bookmark, and all that stuff keeps adding on as those stretch goals get hit. And it's fantastic because everybody benefits from it. So you want to get as many people and many eyes on it as possible. So.
Yep. So there you have it. So that's it. And, thank you again for having me, Graham. I totally, really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, brother.
Looking forward to being able to hang out in person, do a little cigar smoking again.
Amen. Looking forward. I wish you were going to Terrificon. You and me and Billy could be hanging out.
I know. It's like 2 weeks after that. I'm going down to MegaCon, I think, or something. So I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Savannah this weekend, so that'll be my first
show,
I think. Yeah.
Say hey to Frege.
I won't see him. He's leaving Friday morning to come back, not Friday night. So I won't see him.
Is he down there now?
Yeah. He's in Savannah now.
Gotcha. Where he's at. So you guys are going to be like ships passing in the night.
Exactly. He's leaving Friday morning to drive back, and I'm leaving midday Friday to drive down. So
honk out the window as you go in the opposite directions.
I will.
Professionals.
If Atlanta wasn't so far away, actually, I don't know. I have to think about it. maybe what I'll do is I'll be like, Dan, Dennis and I are driving to your place Sunday after the con. Make room for us. And we'll come back Monday. So,
and speaking of the professionals, tomorrow's night show, we're doing a skip week this week. A bunch of guys are as we just said, Dan is on the road and Aaron's on the road too. So we're gonna table the show this week, and we'll pick it back up next Thursday with Dan doing his song and dance for us.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, so you have a night off tomorrow. So maybe I might come on. I might do something tomorrow night on my own. So we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of The Storytellers, and we shall see you next time. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.